Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the latest edition of Terrace Talk. Of course, Norwich still on the hunt for their first championship win of the campaign. They're playing a side that they've maybe got quite a good record against, I'd say, over the years, looking for that first win. Of course, it is Coventry City. With that, delighted to be joined by Stuart from All Things Sky Blue. Stuart, first and foremost, thanks for joining me, of course.
Thank you very much.
Really do appreciate it. How's the season been so far? I mean, defeat against Stoke on the opening day, but unbeaten in the Cups. You know, you played Bristol City and Oxford City. Oxford United, not City, twice. How's the sort of start to the campaign been?
Yeah, we've had slow starts for the past two seasons because of different reasons, and this year we wanted a quick start. You know, the team's gelled now. Apparently, we've had a few, ins and out. Well, ins more than outs, to be fair. But it's been okay. You know, the performances haven't been there, but we've been grinding out results. It's got to click sooner or later. So hopefully it clicks on Saturday against you guys, because, I know you haven't been in the best of forms, which we'll probably talk about in a minute. But, hopefully we can make it click, because when we play good football, there's not a lot of teams that can handle us. But at the minute, we're not playing that good football.
Yeah, 4 points from your opening three championship games. I mean, what's the performance levels been like? You sort of mentioned there about maybe not quite clicking. Have you sort of seen positive signs still?
Yeah, there's definitely been positive signs. In spells, we've probably started the games a little bit too slow for me, really. We need to get out the traps a little bit quicker, especially somebody like Norwich that, come at you. They've got pace in abundance all over the pitch. So we've got to make sure that we're switched on from word go. I don't know whether it's because it's a 12:30 kickoffs that's hindered us slightly. They just don't like getting up in the mornings. I'm not sure. But hopefully we can, like I said, we can step it up a little bit, because I think I'm not saying that the teams that we've played against are lower than Norwich, but with a higher end Norwich team, I'm hoping that we'll raise our game slightly and we'll match you and hopefully beat you.
Yeah, of course, you mentioned there about raising your game. Where's the expectations? Where's the bar at, I suppose, for Coventry fans this season? Kind of a couple of seasons maybe of sort of success at different points. You look at kind of a couple of years back, the playoff final, of course, disappointment on penalties, which I'm sure you don't really want reminding of. Last campaign, a ninth place finish, a playoff, narrowly missed out on, I suppose. Norwich, of course, pipping that sixth position, but an FA Cup semi-final, which, I think a lot of fans maybe were rooting for you, which didn't quite going your way in the end. Where's the bar at this campaign? Is it pushing for playoffs again?
Well, we still won 4-3 in that semi-final, by the way. Look, if you asked me at the start of the season, my hope was top two. And I still think that we will be there. We'll finish third or second, just because I've seen signs, but it's just whether we can push on as quickly as we want to. I think we will get there. And if you ask most Cov fans at the start of the season, it was definitely playoffs or in automatics we can push for with the people that we brought in, that we'll probably talk about in a minute as well. But, I think after the Stoke game, reality is kind of set in a little bit and the expectations have been brought back down slightly. But look, we're still looking at a top six finish. I think we are a top six side. You mentioned it when you did our podcast, that it's a weaker league. It is a weaker league with the teams that have come down. So if there's any chance to do it, this is probably the season, because it might be stronger next year as well.
Yeah, I think we certainly, seeing the effects of that, even as a club like Norwich, the league is generally feels like a little bit, of a weaker one compared to last campaign. A well-known name, of course, to Norwich fans in the Coventry dugout, a well-known name, I suppose, across the Championship as well. Mark Robins, a bit of a legend, I suppose, from his time at Norwich in terms of his goals in the Premier League. Being at Coventry now, it's his second stint at the club for quite a while. He's taken you on quite the roller coaster ride. Plenty of finals, promotions. Lots of good moments, dramatic moments, and it feels like you've now got a club in a position where you can actually kick on, and maybe that Premier League doesn't look quite so far away. Compared to the dark days in League Two. How loved is he still by by the Coventry fans?
It's made a world of difference. Robbins came in for his second stint just before we reached the Johnson's Paint Trophy, as it was then. And he took us to the final and we won that. And then, and he's just took us from League Two, up to the brinks, as you mentioned there, to the playoffs, semi-final of FA Cups. He's just a legend. He will have a statue at the club, regardless, I think, if he gets us promoted. But I think to cement his legacy, to get us to that playoff, to get us to the Premier League, would just top everything. It would be absolutely amazing. And I think when he takes us to the Premier League, we can celebrate our Division 1 title as well, because obviously that was COVID season. It got cut short. We never really had a chance as a fan base to celebrate that, really. And I think if we get to the Premier League, when we get to the Premier League, we can celebrate that as well. But it's not just, Robbins coming in. Doug King has come in, he's bought the club, he's been in ownership now for about 18 months or so. And he's backed him, he's backed him with funds to get people in. Yes, we've lost Vic and Hamer, but they've got us the squad that we've got in losing them two. Would I love them back? Yeah, probably. But, would I lose out on Milan, Sakamoto, Haji Wright, Ellis Sims, De Silva? I know he came in for free, but, people like that it's not just about individual players. It's about making that team. That's what's going to get us through and get us to that next stage. We played Everton in pre-season and we absolutely bulldozed over them and won 3-0 quite convincingly. Yes, they were missing a few players, but you look at how they've started in the Premier League. That I've tipped them to go down. I think they will get relegated, but we've played a Premier League side and we've done really, really well against them. And I'm just hoping that, them levels we can get to in playing league teams like Norwich, like Burnley, and like the rest of them, Sheffield United and the likes, and turn them over.
What's the atmosphere, I suppose, been like at the CBS so far this season? I've sort of seen quite a drastic turn, I suppose, over my visits over the years. You now you're back in sort of your home ground, from the dark days at Northampton and Birmingham, etc., etc. It feels like, you're sort of packing out the stadium. The noise levels are increasing. The feel-good factor is back at the CBS. What's it like being sort of part of that now?
Well, I think this pre-season just showed really everything, it's the first pre-season that we've had home games in a while. And we had two pretty much back-to-back in Everton and Werder Bremen. And the Everton pre-season game, we had 17,000 turn up for that for a pre-season game. It's kind of unheard of. It was a little bit less against Werder Bremen, but I just think that people are on holiday and stuff and things like that as well. And people want to see what it's like against a Premiership side as well. So that, that's got the draw of that in as well. But yeah, it's just immense. And we live and die in these towns, just echoes the stadium now. That's our anthem. People have tried to take it from us and do their own little bits with it. But it's Coventry City's. And when we sing it at Wembley, when we sing it at the CBS Arena, it's just a wonderful thing. And it just gives me goosebumps every time I hear it, because we're loud, we're proud. Our away following as well is just as good as our home following. We sell out most places where we go, if not all the time. So yeah, it's brilliant. It's just fantastic. It's a great stadium. And it's feeling more like home. I know we don't own it, but it is feeling more like home.
There's plenty of players that have sort of arrived at Coventry that have now made it their home this summer. The likes of Jack Redoni, of course, well known for his time at Huddersfield in the Championship. Thomas Asante, of course, who we know from West Brom. Louis Binks has made his move permanent to Coventry. He brought in a few players as well from overseas. Norman Passete, I think you mentioned, looked quite good in a game last night in the Carabao Cup. So maybe who stood out so far out of those ones, and would you expect anyone else to arrive between now and Saturday?
Well, Jack Redoni for me has just been the standout. Even when we've played quite poorly, he hasn't had maybe the best of games, but he's still stood out enough to think that he's a level above. And on his day, he can play. He is some player. And with Sheaf, the holding, midfielder, it will allow the likes of Rudoni, Casey Palmer, Mason Clark, Sheaf, Hadji Wright, Sims, Asante, Jamie Allen. We've got an abundance of players, and that's just cemented then with the likes of Binks, De Silva, Bidwell. We've signed Dovin as well, who's our number one goalkeeper now. We've got where we missed out last season on the playoffs because of the squad depth and the amount that it took out of us in the cup. I don't think that will be an issue now. I think we probably made about 9-10 changes yesterday. I think I'm just trying to think actually. I think there was just Latty who moved from centre half to right back. That was probably the only one. Everybody else, maybe came on for half an hour in the last league game. So, like I said, we've got that strength in depth now. And we'll probably make another 10 changes. Dovin will come back in. Milan will start. It depends on who we start at centre-back. Bobby had a good game and so did Kitchen, but Binks will probably come in. It's who he starts next to Binks is probably the question mark at the moment. Bidwell may come back in, but De Silva's had a couple of good cup games. He's kept clean sheets because in the cup, we've kept clean sheets. It's the league that we haven't. And then the midfield, again, flip a coin, because we just don't know. You mentioned Torp a minute ago as well. We've got Torp. I haven't even mentioned Torp. Torp, Rudoni, Sheaf will probably be the three, or we might go Eccles, Hadji Wright, Sakamoto, and probably Sims will start. But like I said, we've got talent on the bench that can change games for us if we need to. So it's looking good this year.
Yeah, of course. You add to that, you lost a few players there in the summer. I think the notable one, probably Callum O'Hare, who Norwich fans would have seen last week, of course, playing for Sheffield United. Matty Godden, I think, as well, a long spell at Coventry that ended this summer. Expecting any more outgoings or sort of any sort of feelings on those players that have departed?
I'm gutted that obviously we've lost Godden, because I was a big fan of Godden, but I understand the reasons. His legs were going slightly towards the end for this level. He scored for Charlton at the weekend, so fair play to him. Cal, we kind of all expected it to. It was like the Hamer saga and the Vic saga of the last season. You know that they're going to go, and you're just waiting for it to be confirmed to see who he's going to, really. I still think it's a little bit of a sideways move, because I don't think Sheffield United are any better than us. Yes, he's probably earning more money, but the way that I see it, I know it's a short career and they need to earn as much money as they can. But for me, it's about the players singing your name, and the love that player had. And, I will be honest, Cal had a lot of love at Coventry, and we did want him to sign, but we just wanted the saga to be over one way or the other, really. But like I said, I feel it's a bit of a sideways move rather than a step up. But again, that's his decision. He's got to look out for himself and his family, which is understandable. I think there will be a few loans going out, maybe. Tavares, that I haven't even mentioned, he might go out on loan. Justin Abiku, who's mainly an under-21 striker. He's featured in pre-season. He's done quite well. But after we've brought in Bassetti as well, I think his pecking order's gone back. He has picked up a slight injury, so I don't think he'll be anywhere close anyway. So he might go out on loan further down the line anyway, possibly. Incomings, I would like probably another central midfielder, because if we lose Sheaf, then we are a little bit light in that holding midfielder role. As we've seen, I think if Sheaf starts on Saturday, it will be a different game than we've probably seen in the past, because Sheaf just allows them forward ones a little bit more protection in case they do lose the ball, because you've got Sheaf behind you. And we probably need to add to that role, as well as probably maybe another centre-half or a right-back. Because, again, if Milan gets injured, we've got Latti. But, again, he can make the odd mistake. I like Latti a lot. I am a big fan of his, but I know a lot of people aren't that keen on him. But there is a question mark over that, I suppose, as well. So if we bought a right-back, centre midfielder and a centre-half, I think we'll be cooking, really. I'm getting optimistic. I am optimistic, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it could be an interesting few days. I think Norwich expecting to do a little bit of business before Saturday's game. One player that they have brought in this window, which I know you're going to know very well. We did speak about him briefly on your podcast. Of course, Callum Doyle, a couple of years back now, a loan at Coventry. Quite a successful loan, was part of that team that made the playoff final. Norwich fans have enjoyed watching him so far. Very cultured, very comfortable on the ball. Sort of almost looks, older than 20 in terms of the way he plays. Looks very sort of comfortable and experienced at this level. What do you sort of memories, I suppose, do you attach to Callum Doyle, and how good a player was he when he was at Cov?
He was immense. He was absolutely brilliant, and you can tell that he's going to go, and go play for England, and he'll probably end up, maybe not next year, but the year after. He'll play for Man City at one stage because he's versatile. He can play a number of places, centre-half. He can probably play midfield. He can ping a ball. He can tackle. He's got pace. He's the full package. He really is. And I'm gutted that you've got him because there was talks that he was going to come back to Cov. And, we were getting all excited that there was talks and rumours of it. Unfortunately, obviously, it didn't transpire that way. But, fond memories of Callum. If there was anyone that I would have back, apart from obviously Vic and Hamer, Doyle would be the next one because he's absolutely brilliant. He's absolutely fantastic. Potential captain as well. His leadership. He's just got everything about him. I was meant to ask actually on our pod, is it just a loan or is it an option to buy?
Yeah, just a straight loan, unfortunately,
just
for us.
Straight loan.
Yeah, I could see a world where, if the season transpired for Norwich in a successful fashion, they got to the Premier League, then maybe he'd be trusted to come back, maybe whether that be on loan or permanently. But yeah, the long-term contract he signed at Man City, probably a statement of where they view it.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I said, it's brilliant. He will play for England one day. I can't speak highly enough of the lad, and he come across, because Coventry City do like an unseen footage, and when they did it in the playoff season, he come across like a great lad, and he got on with everybody, so it just shows his character as well.
Yeah, we're delighted to have him, and with that, I suppose, intrigued to get your thoughts maybe on Norwich and how their season could transpire. Have you seen sort of anything in terms of our opening sort of start to the campaign, and maybe where do you pitch the bar for Norwich this season in the Championship?
Yeah, obviously, I don't know much about your manager, to be fair, so I don't know necessarily his style of play. I know you've mentioned that he comes with quite good pedigree. If I'm honest, I was expecting a little bit better of Norwich with how poorly you've started, I suppose, really. You are leaking goals and you're not scoring many, which is great for Saturday. I just hope that continues. But, we know that the record that you've got, I do expect you to be there or somewhere abouts, if I'm honest, come the end of the season. I just think it's a slow start for you guys, having, like you've said, a lot of players come in and out, a new manager as well, really. So, probably about 8th or 9th, maybe, top 10, I would see. It's whether you can pick up, wins a bit quicker, and push on that little bit quicker. But we've had slow seasons. In our playoff season, we didn't get a win until October, so it's necessarily nothing to worry about. Up until Christmas, you've just got to pick them points up. It's after Christmas that you've really got to go for it.
Yeah, it's exactly kind of how our season transpired last year. Very slow in terms of the sort of early sort of patches of the form, I suppose, in terms of October and November. Norwich were rubbish. And then, sort of Christmas onwards, they really picked up the points they required to get in the top 6. Before we sort of turn the attention forward to the game on Saturday, just intrigued to get sort of any memories of games between us two, or maybe players that have played for both. There's sort of plenty of good players, I think, down the years, the likes of Darren Huckabee, of course, Dion Dublin, James Maddison, Sam McCallum, I suppose, previously left Norwich. Maybe didn't have the greatest of times at Norwich, but well loved by Cov. Of course, Callum Doyle we've just spoken about. Is there any sort of players, memories, games that stick out for you?
Obviously, the 4-2 sticks out a little bit for me. If I'm honest, I don't really. I've got a really, really bad memory, if I'm honest, of previous games. I can barely remember bloody yesterday's. But yeah, look, obviously, James Maddison, was a great player for us for the little time that we had him, because we didn't really have him for that long before, you guys sort of snapped him up, really. And then he went on to, Leicester and Tottenham, where he is now. So, but yeah, he was a class player. Darren Huckabee, again, one of my favourite players for Coventry City. And I know that he's well loved at Norwich. I think he prefers Norwich to us, to be fair. Even though, he's probably more... I don't know whether he's more loved by Cov fans than Norwich fans. I'm not sure of that one. But yeah, it's always a tough game between the two of us. It's always... Well, recent history will show that it's quite close. There's only the odd goal in it or draws. But when there's a winner, it's normally you guys that win it. It's very rarely us. So hopefully, again, on Saturday, that will change.
Yeah, you mentioned that record. I think going back to 2009, Norwich have unbeaten in the last 10 meetings. Spans almost 15 years since the last time Coventry beat Norwich. Stuart, is that going to change on Saturday? How are you feeling ahead of this one?
We've got to start quicker, at least defend better in the first half, because that's where we tend to struggle with, really. We're a little bit too slow, especially with a 12:30 kickoff. We're not liking that time at the moment, really. But saying that, you guys aren't in the best of form either. And I think that our team, if you want to say that's gelled quicker, just because we had all the last season as well to gel, I think we will have the slight edge. I've said this every game that we've played, that we've got the slight edge, and it ends up going tits up. But I'm going to say that we are going to win. It's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be 2-1 to Coventry.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting game of football. Always sort of plenty of goals and entertainment between these two sides. Of course, two sides that want to play football the right way, which always leads to a good watch, I suppose, for the neutral, but also for the two sides that are involved. Of course, that is Norwich and Coventry.
Sorry, Adam, are you going?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, excellent.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, always enjoy the trips to Coventry. For us, it's sort of one that we deem quite local. Given sort of our
given where you
geographical location. So always a good trip to Coventry. Finally, before we round off, Stuart, just want to plug your podcast and sort of where Norwich and Coventry fans can find the content.
Yeah, you can find us at All Things Sky Blue on all the normal socials: X, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. If you're on YouTube, please go and like and subscribe. We are on podcasts as well, so you can listen to us on podcasts. Go and rate us 5 stars on there. iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else that you get your podcasts from.
There we go. We'll link that down below. Of course, plenty of good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Over there on Stuart's channel. That obviously rounds off this week's edition of Terrace Talk. I'm really looking forward to the game on Saturday. Of course, Norwich hoping to try and record that first victory of the season before we head into the international break. I say, always enjoy a trip to Coventry, so there'll be plenty of goals, hopefully. And I say that now, it's going to be a 0-0 draw, but fingers crossed that's not going to be the case. Plenty of good content, of course, coming up on your this channel, but before that game on Saturday, the transfer window shut in, of course, on Friday. So I think Norwich is going to be busy, so it's going to be a busy couple of days for us.
I think we will.
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
No, I just said I think we will be as well. I think we'll be busy in the transfer. I think Robbins came out today and said that he wants a few more in. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, so it's going to be busy for both clubs then. Potential press conference, or say potential, it's going to be the press conference tomorrow at 1:30. Of course, you're going to hear Johannes Hoff-Torup's full thoughts ahead of this one. That will, of course, be available on our YouTube channel tomorrow evening. So that's going to be well worth a watch ahead of a busy Friday and a busy Saturday. With that, we're going to round off. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the game on Saturday if you head in there. And, of course, we'll see you in the next one.